What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Ardell, and in today's video we're going to be covering the Van Cruz opening, a surprisingly decent option for you French defense players. Now obviously the French is a response for black against e4, in which case black uses their king pawn and moves it up a single square, supporting this d5 push. Well, here is white. We're kind of just doing the same thing with this move of e3. Now at first sight this may seem passive, but this is actually a very solid move, far from a mistake. And white here with a lot of different ideas going forward. Now first off, if black here plays e5, we do have that option of playing d4 and really just playing a French defense up a tempo, right? There's a few different things that black can do. First off, if black tries to push this pawn to e4, okay, let's just approach this like a French. We can play c4, really trying to wipe out half of that fifth rank currently, and really putting some pressure on d5, which is the key square here. And now if black continues something like f5, okay, we'll play knight c3. We could play a move here like knight g e2. I personally really like this idea of bishop e2 followed by knight h3. The knight on the rim is dim, however, we are eyeing this key square of f4. And here if black tries to break through on d5, okay, we'll play knight f4. We got a lot of pressure here on d5. Queen b3 ideas in the air, and just an overall fantastic position for white. So y'all, if black pushes this pawn with e4, just play c4, develop your pieces, and you're going to be in business. What happens if black plays this move of knight c6, right? Trying to defend the pawn on e5. Well, in this case, we do have some options. First off, we can play d5 followed by c4, or if you're really trying to hold on to that French defense type theory, we can play this move of knight f3, right? Putting some pressure on that e5 pawn. And notice here, black tries to take on d4. Okay, we'll just capture back. I personally like throwing my bishop on b5, pinning this knight to the king. Here, if black plays bishop d7, this does save their pawn structure, but then you have a very awkward bishop on d7, and it's going to be hard for this queen to get involved in the game along with both of these minor pieces. So if we see this move bishop d7, we can simply castle kingside, bring this rook to e1, and we've done our job. And here if black plays the move knight f6, okay, let's castle, capture off that knight, and now continue with the move like knight e5, right? You got to go after this weakness on c6, and here if black plays a move like bishop b7, we can activate our own minor pieces, continue here with a move like knight d2. I think here the best option for black is c5, and after this we have a very solid game as white, not winning by any means, but we're just playing chess in the middle game. And if black doesn't play c5, the whole point of knight d2 was not just eyeing a square like f3, but actually the square of b3, looking to lock this square down. Here if black tries to kick our knight around with a move like a5, we're not going to let black play a4. We're going to play a4 ourselves. And it just goes without saying here, white has a supreme positional advantage. I mean, this knight on b3 is eyeing c5. It's going to be near impossible for black to break through on c5 in the near future. And on top of that, our bishop on g5 is very active. Just a great overall position to work with for white here. So if you do see knight c6, just develop your knight and be prepared to take back on d4, and you're going to be in business. What happens here if black tries to kick our knight around? Well, okay, we're kind of just playing a regular French idea, but we're up a tempo, which is huge, specifically as the French is very sharp and every single move counts. Here we're going to play the idea of knight d2, right? Attacking that pawn on e4. Notice what we did here. Black played knight c6 and then pushed e4. So we're bringing our knight back, making black play a move here such as d5, but now we can put pressure on d5, and c6 simply isn't possible because black has already committed to putting a minor piece there. So d5 here is a major target, and here we're just going to continue to develop while putting even more pressure on that pawn. And notice here if a move like bishop b4, okay, we can just snatch off that pawn on d5. If you want to take on d5, we're simply going to go up a pawn, and if you capture on c3, we can take back with the pawn. If a move like queen d5 here, I like bishop a3, preventing this king from castling kingside. We have ideas such as c4, queen b3. A move like h3 never hurts, just kind of keeping that knight and that bishop out. A lot of flexible chances here for white. I'm taking white here any day of the week. So yeah, we've covered a couple of different moves that black can try here, and against both of these, white is going to get a great French defense type game. However, here black can just take on d4, and I think this is one of the biggest issues with this opening is that black can simply just capture on d4, and the very next move, play d5. And if I was walking past the table and one of you guys were playing an over-the-board tournament game, and I saw this position, I would probably think that it was white here that played e4, right? Going into a regular exchange variation French. I mean, going back, let's just say we start out with e4. Usually that position is reached by black playing e6 and then us capturing in the center of the board. In that position, guys, we kind of just had a flip in terms of who captures off the d-pawn. That being said, there are a couple of options here for white. If you're really trying to create some imbalances, the Monte Carlo variation is very solid with this move of c4. And if you're kind of okay with playing a position like this, you can always just develop, right? Play a move like knight f3, bishop d3, castling kingside. There's absolutely nothing wrong with white's position here, but I must warn you, this is one of the most drawish positions in all of chess. Right? I mean, it's just very easy for black to actually just keep copying us, right? Knight f3, okay, black plays knight f6. We play bishop d3, okay, black plays bishop d6. They're just going to keep copying us, continue developing their pieces, and we're going to have an extremely drawish game with not really any inequalities to speak of. If you do want to create some inequalities here, however, you can play this move again of c4 with the Monte Carlo variation. So yeah, that covers d4 against the move of e5. Again, I mean, you're really just trying to play a reverse French. The biggest issue there, I think, for white is that black can capture and then just go into a regular exchange variation French with d5 giving us a very drawish game. But if you're okay with that position, you're okay with that position. And if they don't take on d4, you're going to have some great opening chess ahead of you. On top of that, if you are a little bit worried about black taking on d4, you can always play this move of c4, right? Transposing into an English, but really a reverse Sicilian defense with our king pawn up one square. Right? If you're a Sicilian defense player and you like to play c5 followed by e6, this may be a great option for you, right? Instead of just playing c4 and hoping that black goes into, a reverse Sicilian type position, play e3, kind of bait this e5 option and then play the move of c4. Here, white with very playable and good chess ahead. So yeah, we just covered this move of e5 and what we can do against it with an option like d4 or even c4, transposing into an English/Sicilian type position. Now notice here though, black doesn't need to play this move of e5, right? In fact, black can do nearly anything. This move of e3 doesn't really stop black from simply developing how they wish. I think that the most popular move besides e5 is this move of d5. This is actually what Daniel Naroditsky prefers as the black side. And now as white, we have a couple of different options. One of them is going into this move of b3, right? Trying to fianchetto our bishop, kind of going into a Nimzo-Larsen attack type position. And in this case, with e5, actually playing a reverse Owens defense, right? We're putting some pressure on e5. If you want to play a move like bishop d6, we have c4 ideas, using a flank pawn and putting pressure on the centralized pawn on d5. And here, if a move like knight c6, okay, let's spin this knight to the king on e8. We're actually yet again threatening to pick off this pawn as this knight cannot move, and if black defends it, okay, we're going to continue to put pressure on this pawn. And notice here again, if queen e7 or something like that, we can always play c4, right? Very hyper-dynamic and interesting position there for white. And here if bishop g4 is played, trying to pin our knight, okay, let's just play this move h3. Here black is going to have to give up the bishop pair because if a move like bishop h5 is played, we have g4 and we can simply snatch off this pawn because really black only has one defender, right? This knight cannot move. And obviously if this bishop captures, we simply take back. We're up a pawn. We're putting pressure on g7. We're putting pressure on c6. And here white with the big, big edge. So guys, if you see a move like d5, that's one option here, going into that Nimzo-Larsen attack / reverse Owens defense type idea with b3 and just fianchettoing your bishop, right? On top of that, we could even go into a bird's opening here with f4. And finally, we can play this move of d4, eventually going into a Colley system. It's really a top tier system for white, and we don't really care what the opponent plays. Okay, we're just going to develop our pieces. We're going to play a move here like knight f3 and form this pawn pyramid, right? We have a ton of support here for that pawn on d4. And at this point, okay, we'll play this move bishop d3, play a move like knight bd2, castle kingside, bring our rook to e1, and at the right moment, break through with e4. The Colley system, very solid option for white, and it's going to give you a playable middle game position every single time, no matter who you're going against. If you'd like to learn more about the Colley system, click that video to the left. If you'd like to learn more on the theory behind the Monte Carlo variation, the option that I was sharing early on in this video, click that video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.